What's going on, guys? In this video, I'm going to be breaking down episode 10 of Attack on Titan season 4. Among the many reveals that happened this episode, we found out that the military police want Historia to be the next Beast Titan, but they've run into a baby-sized problem that changes literally everything. This video will explain what's going on with that, as well as everything else that I thought was interesting, including Mikasa's true heritage, the full details of Zeke's plan, and a subtle throwback to this moment in season 2. In some parts, I'll also explain the differences between the anime and manga, as there are a couple of things that caught my attention in this episode. Before we get into it, I'd really appreciate if you hit the sub button if you haven't already, and be sure to drop a like as it does help out the video. Okay, so episode 10 was called A Sound Argument, which was a fitting title considering just how many important discussions were had in this episode. It picks up where we left off last week, with Man Bun Eren telling himself to fight in the mirror, but this time we get a better angle and you can see Hanji was just standing there watching him. Bizarrely, this is not the first time that Hanji has caught Eren talking to himself inside a prison cell, as back in season 3 she walked in on him doing the same thing. In that episode, Hanji began imitating him and just kept rambling on until Eren got annoyed, and now 4 years later, history repeats itself once again. As the commander of the Survey Corps, Hanji came to talk to Eren because she wants to know why he infiltrated Marley by himself, and by the end of this video, I guarantee you will understand why if you don't already. In this episode, we got a flashback to 2 years ago, which gave us relevant information that helps to explain Eren's decision. The flashbacks that we saw in the previous episode occurred 3 years ago in the year 851, and this new flashback happened 1 year later in the year 852. During that time difference, the port they were constructing has been completed, with Paradis Island now welcoming its first foreign visitors for 100 years. In the entire world, there is only one nation that doesn't completely despise the Eldian race, and that is the country of Hizuru. It's essentially the equivalent to Japan in the world of Attack on Titan, as we know it's located in the east thanks to Gabi, and the name Hizuru itself is a phonetic reference to the word sunrise, with real-life Japan sometimes being referred to as the land of the rising sun. 2 years ago, one of their ambassadors went to visit Paradis Island, and it was none other than Kiyomi Azumabito. She is the current head of the Azumabito clan, and we've already seen her a couple times this season, with her most notable appearance being before the declaration of war. She went backstage to wish Willy Tybur good luck, but afterwards she left the area completely and didn't stick around for his performance. Back then we had no idea why Kiyomi left, but now it's clear she must have known Eren was going to attack given her relationship with Paradis Island. In the manga, Mikasa had a shocked expression at seeing Kiyomi for the first time, as her facial features reminded Mikasa of her mother. This scene was taken out of the anime, but it was our first indication that these two were in some way related. We found out from this random kidnapper in season 1 that Mikasa and her mother were the last descendants of an Asian clan that lived on Paradis Island, and that clan had a special family crest which had been passed down from generation to generation. The first time we saw Mikasa's mother in the manga, she had just finished branding Mikasa's arm with that symbol. But in that same scene in the anime, she was teaching Mikasa how to stitch it instead. During this flashback, we get the reveal from Kiyomi that this is the symbol of the Azumabito clan, and Mikasa does actually have the branding on her wrist in the anime, which I wasn't sure if they were going to do that, but yeah, it's interesting to see. I'm just wondering, have we not seen Mikasa's wrist in the series so far? Has it always been covered? I can't quite remember, but someone let me know in the comments. Mikasa's heritage is significant because firstly it means that she is related to Kiyomi by blood, and it also makes Mikasa a pretty powerful person back in her homeland. Around 100 years ago, the ruler of Hizuru was a friend of the Eldian Empire, but after the Great Titan War, the ruler's grandchild was left behind on Paradis Island. Mikasa is the last remaining descendant of that grandchild after over 100 years, which is the reason why Kiyomi seemed to get a little bit emotional. Anyway, moving on, I'm going to explain the details of Zeke's plan to save Paradis Island and how he got the nation of Hizuru to help him with that plan. He knew that the Azumabito clan would want to know that they had a descendant, so he initially got them to meet by promising he'd reveal that information. This scene in the anime cut out a bunch of details that were in the manga, so skip to the timestamp on screen if you just want to hear about the anime specifically, but for the rest of you, I'm going to talk about a chunk of their conversation that was left out. In the manga, Zeke dropped an absolute bombshell of information by claiming that he has secretly been an Eldian restorationist for his entire life. The guy who ratted out his parents, massacred the Survey Corps, and turned the people of Ragako into Titans, well, he was actually on their side the whole time apparently. Zeke's story is that he exposed his parents because they were soon going to be discovered by the Marleyan authorities, so by ratting them out, he was able to prove his loyalty to Marley and rise up the ranks. After becoming the Beast Titan, Zeke did all those terrible things because to restore Eldia he needed to go along with Marley's plan. Marley never knew that Zeke had royal blood, so on the surface he pretended to be a good soldier who, like everyone else, was trying to get the Founding Titan, but underneath, he secretly planned to save Eldia by helping to activate the Founding Titan's true power. The reason he told Kiyomi the truth is because he wanted Hizuru to help with his plan, and he offered her a financial incentive to do this. That's where the anime picks up, as he reveals that on Paradis Island there is a natural resource known as the Iceburst Stone. These stones are converted into gas which powers their equipment, but they're not the same as the glowing stones which we saw in the Reiss Chapel. The main point is that the Iceburst Stone is a precious fuel source that can only be found on Paradis Island, and therefore it must be incredibly valuable. The Eldians on the island obviously have no idea how much it's really worth, so if Hizuru agreed to help Zeke with his plan, then he promised them access to this resource. Zeke offered them a deal they couldn't refuse, as he promised to not only reunite them with their lost descendant, but more importantly, he promised them wealth that could restore their nation to its former glory. Before we move on, it's worth mentioning that this equipment that Zeke gave to Kiyomi used to belong to Zacharias. When he was alive, Zacharias was the second strongest Eldian soldier, only bettered by Captain Levi. But in Season 2, the Beast Titan threw a freaking horse at the guy before cornering him on the ground. The Beast Titan had never seen ODM gear before, so he stole it from Zacharias, and now years later, he's using it as a diplomatic gift. When Zeke initially uncovered it during this episode, it was obvious that Kiyomi was already aware of what it was, despite this being top secret information within Marley. My assumption is that Kiyomi must have had a spy working for her in Marley, otherwise there's just no way she would have known of the existence of this gear. Anyhow, getting back to Zeke's plan, his idea to restore Eldia was to rebuild the island and turn it into a modern nation. In exchange for Paradis giving away their natural resources, the nation of Hizuru would help to establish a modern army with the latest weapons and all the other stuff that you might expect. But Zeke knows that Marley isn't just going to leave Paradis alone for all that time. That's where the other part of the plan comes in, as to stop enemy nations from attacking the island, he needs to meet Eren so they can perform a partial rumbling with the Titans inside the walls. This partial rumbling will let everyone know that Paradis is not to be messed with, which will give them sufficient time, hopefully, to build up their population and their army, which will allow them to defend themselves without needing the rumbling in the future. For the foreseeable future, they will need to maintain this threat until they build up their army to a sufficient standard, so that means that at some point before their term ends, both Zeke and Eren will need to find successors. As we all know, to activate the power of the Founding Titan, you don't just need the Founding Titan itself, but you also need a Titan of royal blood. And by default, that means the only person who could succeed Zeke is Historia. Historia needs to inherit the Beast Titan from Zeke at some point and then spend her remaining years having as many children as she can. That way, the royal bloodline will never die out, and they will always have a Titan with royal blood and the Founding Titan. Hange questions the ethics of this plan, because if they go ahead with it, then once Historia gets the Beast Titan, she will have to be eaten within 13 years, and then obviously her children will be eaten by each other, just basically in an endless cycle. So it is definitely not the most wholesome plan, and you can see why Hange would have some concerns about it. That said, Historia still agrees to inherit the Beast Titan if necessary, much to Eren's disapproval. Remember, this flashback happened 2 years ago, and at this time Eren refused to accept Zeke's plan, not least because he wanted to protect Historia from the fate that I just described. As time progressed, we can see that present-day Eren now believes there is no other way to protect the island without the help of Zeke, which is why he grew so impatient and went to Marley to pick up his brother. The reason Eren was so pissed off with Hange in this scene, obviously number one, he didn't really want to talk in the first place, but number two, he didn't see any other path for their survival than to go and get Zeke, yet she's acting like she can't understand why he did it. The anime did this scene so well, and I say that because they actually added in his Titan lightning to this moment, almost like he was so angry that he was willing to transform. As he stated, he can actually turn into the Warhammer Titan literally whenever he wants, as its power works even when the user is trapped underground. As a result, his decision to stay inside this prison cell is a tactical choice, and the cell is not actually restraining him. Anyhow, like Hange, you might be wondering if Eren no longer cares about Historia, given that he has always been against the idea of her becoming a Titan. While we don't exactly know whether he is or isn't against Historia becoming the Beast Titan now, what we do know is that at this moment it can't happen because she is pregnant. During the episode, we saw a conversation between high-ranking members of the military police, and they partly explained the situation. As I said, these guys are military police, and it was their full intention that if Zeke came to the island, they would immediately turn Historia into a pure Titan and have her eat the Beast Titan. The reason they wanted that to happen is because they don't believe that Zeke is really on their side, and that whatever he's secretly planning, it can be stopped if Historia inherits his Titan. According to this guy, someone must have told their plan to Queen Historia to stop Zeke from getting eaten straight away. His theory was that Yelena advised Historia to get pregnant because a pregnancy would mean that she wouldn't have to eat Zeke until after she gives birth. Regardless of Historia's motivations, if this theory is true, then her pregnancy has given Zeke extra time to do whatever he's planning to do. Whilst this guy was getting drunk on Marley and wine, Niall tried to be the voice of reason and argued that they can't turn Historia into a Titan now because it might be fatal for the baby. Although this is his first appearance of the new season, we've seen Niall many times before, as he is the commander of the military police, longtime friend of Erwin, and also the guy who argued that Eren should be executed. The anime then flashes back to 1 year before the current events, which was when the scouts were helping to build a railway system, which was actually foreshadowed in the last episode. At that time, Paradis was waiting on Kiyomi to build relationships with other nations across the world on their behalf. However, Hange revealed that the plan was a failure, as the rest of the world is actually somewhat united by their hatred of Paradis. Eren was concerned that this meant they had no choice but to rely on Zeke's plan, and therefore turn Historia into the Beast Titan, which as you can see makes him visibly angry. Hanji had one last-ditch attempt to avoid that outcome, which is that the Survey Corps would meet people from other countries face to face instead of using Kiyomi as a middleman. Hanji's proposal was that they create a base in Marley, presumably with the help of Kiyomi, and this would enable the Survey Corps to start building international relations. During their conversation on the train back home, the main group then discussed who should get Eren's Titan in 5 years' time. With the exception of Armin for obvious reasons, everyone had their own arguments as to why they should be the next inheritor of the founding Titan, but Eren made it crystal clear that he wanted his friends to live long lives and therefore he wouldn't allow any of them to inherit it. Generally speaking, if you care about someone, you probably don't want them to have a 13-year limit on their lifespan, so Eren proved just how much he cared about these guys when he refused to even think about them having his Titan. In the present day, we see most of this group all in a room together as they discuss the situation with the volunteers. Jean points out that Pixis didn't really have many options than to do what he did, as no one really knows what Zeke is plotting, and the volunteers do essentially work for him. Connie and Jean are unsure if Eren is on their side or Zeke's side, given that Eren did have conversations with Zeke in Marley that only those two know about. As we already know, Connie is especially bitter about Sasha's death, which is why he's the one saying they should be prepared to kill Eren if necessary. In the flashback we saw, Sasha is one of the people that Eren said was too important for him to lose, yet in the present day, his actions willingly put her in danger that ultimately led to her death. Although it's possible, like Mikasa says, that Eren trusted them to survive, the fact is that he must have known he was putting them in danger, but was willing to risk their lives. To Eren, the prospect of bringing Zeke back to the island was worth risking the lives of the people who he said were too important to give his Titan to. So there is a bit of a contradiction there, and Jean might be right in saying that Eren has changed a lot. Armin didn't really take a side as to whether Eren is working with them or against them, but as usual this season, his answer is to talk things out with the man himself. As we saw in the last episode, Paradis recently acquired the Titan Transformation Serum from Marley, and if Eren is deemed untrustworthy, which he currently is, then this serum will be used to make someone else eat Eren and take away his Titans. That's why it's crucial that Armin and Mikasa talk to him so they can prove that Eren is on their side and save his life from those in the military who might want to kill him. The episode ends with Zeke politely reading his book whilst these soldiers are getting drunk, and you can just see from Levi's expression, he is waiting for any excuse to kill this man. With that said, that was my breakdown for episode 10 of Attack on Titan Season 4. For those who may have missed my announcement earlier this week, my new Discord server is now live, so you just need to hit the link in the description if you want to join. As usual, I'd appreciate if you dropped a like if you liked this video, and let me know in the comments what you thought about the episode. Until the next one, peace out!